Some voters, though, might ask, you've been in the White House for 4 years, you were vice president, not the president, but why wasn't any of that done the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life or in your life in the last 4 years, that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question. Mm-hmm. So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess.
Yeah, nerd isn't quite the word that comes to mind. Maybe something more like train wreck? Self-destructive? Suicidal? Kamala Harris gave what was perhaps her single most disastrous town hall yet last night, all for CNN's dwindling audience to see. We're going to look at some of the cringiest moments from that debacle, and we're going to get to the bottom of precisely why Kamala and the Democrats are imploding right before the world's very eyes. Greetings, everyone. It's I, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Seriously, make sure you subscribe. I am absolutely committed to providing for you the single best election coverage out there. Before we dive in here, gang, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine. Staying strong physically and mentally isn't just about living longer, it's about living better. I partnered with Beam because they're a health and wellness company that's put in the time and rigorous research to craft science-backed solutions that truly optimize every system in your body from the moment you wake up until you lay your head down to sleep. More specifically, I've been using Beam Dream for a while now, and it's completely changed the way I sleep. I'm a horrible sleeper. I used to toss and turn while my mind raced through the night. But since taking Dream, gang, I fall asleep much faster and even sleep all throughout the night. It's a game changer. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get the deep sleep you need and deserve. It's become a nightly ritual of mine. I look forward to it each and every day. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. I even wake up before my alarm sometimes, which is something I never used to do. I have the best deal I've ever had with Beam, so now's your time to give Dream a try. Shop early access to Beam's biggest sale ever, and get this, get up to 50% off site-wide for a limited time when you use promo code Turley. Yes, that's half off, gang. Don't miss out on this offer. Click the QR code on the screen or use the link below to propel your wellness journey to the next stage today. As even the ultra-liberal Newsweek magazine put it, Kamala Harris experienced what they called a bruising town hall last night on CNN. CNN commentator David Urban put it this way: Kamala Harris participated in a one-person debate last night, and she lost. Now, keep in mind, it actually gets worse than that. Just before CNN went live with that town hall train wreck, an absolute bombshell dropped on the Kamala campaign. The latest, and I believe final, Wall Street Journal national poll dropped last night. It's Trump +3. It's Trump with a +3 national lead. They have him winning the popular vote. By contrast, the Wall Street Journal's last poll for 2020 in the final week of October was Biden +10. It's now Trump +3. Which, by the way, has lowered Kamala's lead in the RCP aggregate, the Real Clear Politics polling average, which averages out all the polls, the good, the bad, the ugly. And gang, look at this. Kamala's lead, which was inordinately influenced by all those pathetic pandering puff polls over the last 3 months. Look at this, gang. Her lead is now down to 0.2. 0.2 in the polling aggregate. Again, by contrast, Biden, who only won by 40,000 votes, Biden at this time in 2020 was up in the aggregate by 8. Hillary, of course, went on to go down in flames. She was up at the same time by nearly 6. So the Harris campaign is fledgling, and you could see it with all these Hail Marys and jumping the shark antics that they've been engaged in the last 48 hours, all centering around Trump is Hitler meme that we talked about yesterday. And like we talked about yesterday, it's not working. The vast majority of the country simply refuses to believe that the guy waving at everyone from McDonald's drive-thru window is the reincarnation of Hitler. And Anderson Cooper, to his credit, confronted Kamala on this last night. Check it out.
But there are tens of millions of Americans right now who have heard all those things and they don't buy it, or even if they do, they're still going to vote for Donald Trump. He's arguably more popular now than ever. You have 13 days to go. What do you say to those voters to convince them? Because some of them are in this room.
Sure, and I thank you all for taking the time to be here. And you could be doing a number of other things with your time. So this really is proof that we love our country. People are engaged, Anderson, and really want to talk about the issues. And so the issue that you raise, yes, I do believe that Donald Trump is unstable, increasingly unstable, and unfit to serve. And I don't necessarily think that everyone has heard what you and I have heard repeatedly.
Again, this is what Kamala does best. It's a non-answer. She doesn't answer the question. Anderson Cooper is confronting her. Kamala, nobody's buying it. Nobody believes this crap. They don't. You've got to pivot. You got to find something else. And what does she do? She just doubles down on stupid. Speaking of doubling down on stupid, Anderson Cooper then brought up the issue of codifying Roe v. Wade into law, and the Senate filibuster came up. And I mean, take a look at this.
Let me ask you, you've talked about codifying Roe v. Wade. That would obviously require 60 votes in the Senate, a majority of the House. That's a big leap. We don't have that yet. If that's not possible to codify it in the House, what do you do?
I think we need to take a look at the filibuster, to be honest with you.
You heard it with your own ears. Cooper asked her, if you can't codify it in the House, what are you going to do? And her answer was, well, I think we need to take a look at the filibuster. Well, the filibuster gang, of course, has literally nothing to do with the House. You're not going to be able to pass this in the House. What are you going to do? I think we have to look at the filibuster. The filibuster is the Senate. The filibuster's got nothing to do with the House. You would think that as a former senator, this borderline illiterate would at least know that. So not only did she reaffirm her support for getting rid of the Senate filibuster, she voiced that radical far-left Marxist support by confusing the Senate with the House. But that's nothing compared to the flip-flop on the southern border, the embarrassing, pathetic, obvious flip-flop that yes, flip-flop, I think it's a flip-flop. Flip-flop that yes is going viral online as we speak. Check it out.
Let me be very clear. I'm not going to vote for a wall under any circumstances. I am not for a wall. They're not jumping over walls. So the idea that we're going to sell this thing to the American public and require the taxpayers of our country to pay $5 billion for something that will not deliver what he is suggesting we need is ridiculous, and I will not support it.
It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occur.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
And in typical Kamala fashion, she just continued. I mean, She just continued to dig deeper and deeper.
I mean, you did raise your hand saying in a debate when asked if border crossing should be decriminalized, but obviously that is not your position.
I never intended, nor will I ever allow America to have a border that is not secure. I believe we need to deal with illegal immigration. There needs to be consequences, which is why part of my plan that I have outlined, and again, please go to kamalaharris.com. Sorry to throw a website on you, but why not? And you will see that part of my plan includes what we need to do to actually do more as it relates to putting resources in, including increasing penalties.
Yeah, Cackles obviously never learned the first rule when you're in a hole: stop digging. Here's CNN's Dana Bash.
Well, I'll just tell you what I'm hearing from people who I have been talking to, and that is that if her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that. And, you know, some people have asked, is she being held to a different standard? Maybe, but that's maybe the world that she's living in. And on the question of who she is, people are understanding that a little bit more. But what she will do, the question about her legislative priorities, name one, there wasn't one. You know, some more of her personality and her sort of character questions about your weaknesses or what mistakes did you make? Not necessarily the answers there.
In other words, it was a disaster. That's the closest thing that Dana Bash will admit to how much of a train wreck this town hall really was, with literally days before the election. Voters still have no freaking clue what the hell this Kamala campaign is actually all about. Why is she running in the first place? Well, I guess we all know that because Joe is as senile as sand, but they have no clue how she's going to fix the economy. They have no clue how she's different from Biden. They have no clue how she's going to fix inflation. They have no clue how she's going to secure the border. They literally have no clue over what the hell this campaign is all about. And I think Christian Hines had a great comment on this that aligns very well with what we were talking about on one of yesterday's videos. He writes this, quote, "The competency crisis has gotten so bad that it's now negatively affecting the Democrat Party's ability to win elections. The world that bio-Leninism has created for itself is now overwhelming it. The left increasingly does not understand how to speak to any voter aside from affluent white female liberals." And you left out cat owning as well. Now, the bio-Leninism he's talking about there, that's a great term. That's the notion that inevitably Marxist coalitions will place at the top of the social hierarchy, the social pyramid, as society's leaders, basically society's misfits, for lack of a better term. In other words, whereas traditional Leninism promoted adherence through the ranks by virtue of their ideological fidelity to Marxism, bio-Leninism promotes more on the basis of one's identity and one's resemblance to victim classes. And so bio-Leninism inevitably ends up enthroning and enshrining as leaders those people whose lack of competence and skills render them most unlikely to assume leadership positions. And so bio-Leninism inevitably suffers from a competency crisis, precisely because competency has been replaced by identity as the primary screening procedure for positions of leadership. And so what Christian is saying there, what he's recognizing, is that Kamala, being a perfect example of bio-Leninism, represents a political class that's largely lost the competence to persuade. This is exactly what we talked about in yesterday's first video. This is why they're doubling down on stupid, on the completely implausible notion that Mr. McDonald's drive-thru is Hitler. The social world that bio-Leninism built is simply imploding in on itself. Or as Christian put it, the left increasingly no longer understands how to speak to any voter aside from affluent white female liberals. And that's exactly what CNN's dwindling audience saw on display in that disastrous and humiliating town hall.